All right, so you guys, you don't have to suffer and stay that way. The thing is, we're not being told what's really happening with us. We're not being told why we're struggling with weight and a number of diseases. So let's dive in. I want you to imagine that if you don't know what insulin resistance is, hang out. We're going to learn about it. So I want you to imagine insulin as a key, and your cells are like locked doors. So when everything is working right, insulin comes in to deliver energy to the cells, turns the key, unlocks them, and allows that glucose or energy into your cells. But over time, especially in today's modern food environment, your body is flooded with too much glucose. The locks start to get jammed and rusty. They don't work anymore. Your pancreas, which is where insulin is created, has to create more and more insulin to try and deal with this load of energy in our system. And it's desperately trying to force those doors open, but eventually the keys just stop working altogether. And the result is that sugar stays in your bloodstream and your body starts spiraling into a metabolic disaster. So, what really causes insulin resistance, guys, is this: it's not just about eating too much sugar, it's about environment and constantly forces your body into a state of overload. So, I'm going to break it down. There are a couple of things that cause insulin resistance. Excess carbohydrate intake is one, high stress and cortisol is another. A sedentary lifestyle, which we all live now, is another. And then inflammation from that poor diet and lifestyle choices, lack of sleep, excess blue light exposure, toxins, glyphosates, all of this starts leading to a body that's struggling and it cannot use insulin the way it's meant to. So let's break all of that down. So, excessive carbohydrate intake. Think of your body like a sink. Every time you eat, especially carbs, you turn the faucet on, pouring glucose into the system. And insulin is the drain that helps clear it out. But if you're snacking all day, eating refined carbs or drinking sugary drinks, the drain gets clogged and the glucose overflows into your bloodstream. So stop and ask yourself, do you often feel hungry shortly after eating? Because that could be a sign that insulin isn't able to do its job properly. That's a great name, Fat Cheerleader. Sorry, that one caught my name. But you guys, thank you for the likes and loves. I appreciate your in this live interaction is important because although I'm going to be spewing a lot of facts and science and information, I want you guys to get the most out of this. So I need your input. I need you to say, hey, I need you to go over that, whatever, as long as we go through. Okay. So that's excessive carbohydrate intake and frequent eating. So everybody telling you to eat every 2 hours, that it's going to help your metabolism, they're lying to you. It's not going to help your metabolism. It's going to destroy it in the long term. The only way to stop getting the insulin so high is to stop getting those carbohydrates in so often and stop eating all the damn time. Just hard truth. Okay. No, we don't need to snack. We think we do. We want to, but we don't need to. We've got to stop it. That's why we're so sick. We're talking about insulin resistance, Hafsa. So the next way, high cortisol levels. So I want you to imagine that you're running from a tiger, except in the modern life, that tiger is your bills, your deadlines, your daily stress. Okay. So now your body is releasing cortisol to keep you alert in perceived danger, but there's no real danger there. So your cortisol is telling your body to dump sugar into your bloodstream for quick energy because in a crisis, survival matters more than balanced blood sugar. So chronic stress keeps you stuck in the loop, making insulin resistance even worse. So it does all still come down to sugar in the bloodstream, but I want to show you there's more ways than just getting in excess carbohydrates that this can happen. We are going to go over a way to address this in just a little bit. So I want you to think about this. Do you feel wired? Like you can't rest. You're full of anxiety, but you can't rest. You're exhausted all the time. That's your stress hormones fighting with your metabolism. And it's making you more insulin resistant and more sick along the way. Now, when we get to sedentary lifestyle, we all know that the majority of us are not moving like we used to. in days past. Even when I was younger, we were up. Like I remember as kids, we didn't have video games. We didn't have all this stuff. We got kicked out of the house. We had 5 acres up in Idaho. We were out running through the woods, playing football with each other, terrorizing each other, but we were active. And even as a young adult, I was active a lot. We are not so active. I have a job now that I sit behind a desk all day, right? We're sedentary. So here's what's happening. Your muscles love glucose. They're like glucose sponges. So when you move, they soak up sugar from your blood, helping you be more insulin sensitive. But if you spend most of your day sedentary, sitting, not moving, sugar just kind of hangs around, forcing insulin to come out harder and harder because it's trying to get it into the other cells because your muscles aren't taking that up. So how often do you get up and get moving throughout the day? Even a short walk after meals, and I'm going to tell you, do that short walk before meals, okay, can help your glucose be used up more efficiently. Why before meals? So if you eat, then it takes a while for that to get into your cells, but I want you to get your muscles moving. I want you to start them being activated before you eat. What a better way to start getting that glucose into your muscle cells than to have them open and hungry before you even eat, okay? Sorry about that. Shut that off. Now, the other thing is, I'm always leaning into these crazy things. I just saw a post about if you were to do 45 seconds. For me, that's about 20 squats, air squats. Like no weight, anything. You can add weight if you want to. 20 air squats, 45 every 45 minutes to an hour is going to give you the same effects throughout the day as actually taking the time out to work out for 30 minutes to an hour. So every once in a while, especially if you're at a desk, just get some squats in. Just pop up, stand up, do some squats. By the way, those lower body muscles are going to make you more insulin sensitive than any other muscle group because they're larger and they want more of that energy. So utilizing those legs and glutes is the best way to start becoming insulin sensitive. Got it? Okay. So another one is the inflammation from poor diet and lifestyle choices. So I want you to picture a raging fire inside your body, and every processed food that we're eating, every toxin, every seed oil, all of the stuff that we're putting in, and every poor night's sleep starts to throw more fuel on the flames, making you more inflamed inside, causing more oxidative stress, and chronic inflammation damages your cells, making them less responsive to insulin. Now the glucose is staying in your cells even more. Okay. So have you ever woke up feeling stiff and swollen, even though you didn't do anything strenuous the day before? That could be inflammation from insulin resistance getting worse in your body. All of these little things, you guys, that nobody talks about that we're suffering with and we think are unrelated are so related. And that's why I'm here to share all of this. So we're going to work on lack of sleep. So if you're missing sleep, it's like pulling an all-nighter and expecting to ace an exam the next day. Your brain's not functioning, your body's not functioning, your body's struggling to regulate blood sugar, your hunger hormones are going haywire, your cravings are skyrocketing, and just one night of bad sleep can make you temporarily insulin resistant. What did I say the other day? 3 to 4 nights of bad sleep can set you in chronic insulin resistance. So if you're not getting sleep, you're causing a problem that's creating more of this than just high blood sugars. Okay. And it's keeping the blood sugars in because your body's chronically stressed. Get some sleep. It's okay to have a sleepless night once in a while, but we really all need to work on our sleep. Okay. So and then we want to talk about toxins, glyphosates, endocrine disruptors. So these that are all over the wheat products and the grain products that are also high in starches and high in glucose, they're enemies that are in everything. Okay. Our food, plastics, and even our skincare products have these glyphosates and endocrine disruptors in them. So they're interfering with your hormones. They're disrupting insulin signaling and contributing to metabolic dysfunction. And it's like having a bad Wi-Fi signal. Your body's trying to communicate, but interference keeps messing it up. Thanks for the likes, you guys. Thank you. Please do ask questions as we go through this, but I just really want to get you guys some information. We are going to talk about a solution to all this in a little bit. So, have you ever wondered, think about this one, have you ever wondered why so many people struggle with weight gain and chronic disease, even when they think they're eating healthy? That was me. I was doing all the healthy things. I did keto, I did veganism, I did the medical medium. I had a really good diet, and yet I was struggling. I was getting sicker. I was losing joints. I had body-wide aches and pains. I had muscle cramps. I had hair falling out. I had bleeding teeth and gums. I had all this stuff, and I was trying to eat really well, but it just wasn't working because there's all these other disruptors that are happening. That's why I have a stainless steel mug, and the other day I realized I'm ordering stainless steel straws now too, because I just want to lower the risk and um, the my exposure to those. You don't need expensive tea. You just cut out sugar. Now down 11 pounds and counting. Frida, that's great for you. And let's talk about that. That doesn't work for everyone. Frida, remember, I just said that. I had cut out all sugar. I was doing keto. I was working out as a world level athlete. So I was at the gym 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. I had very little sugar, if any, in my diet, and if I did, it was carb backloading after I had a big squat or leg workout day, maybe once or twice a week. The rest of the time, I was basically in ketosis, and I was still sick and suffering. Okay, so it's not, for a lot of people, it's not just cutting out sugar. That's a great start, but a lot of people just can't sustain that. That's why the protocol helps. Okay, so is my tea expensive to me? No, it's like $5 a day for the whole system. And guess what? Instead of a soda, instead of a fruit juice, instead of something else, I have a tea that is not only giving me energy and vitamins and minerals and all of that, it's helping boost my metabolism from the inside out. So it's not just a one factor approach. It's not just cutting out sugars. It's giving me back nutrition and energy that I need to stay consistent with what I'm doing. Okay, so insulin resistance, you guys, doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow buildup of lifestyle, diet, stress, environmental factors. But the good news, you can reverse it, just like I was just talking about. So if any of this sounds familiar to you, don't panic. Small, simple changes can make a massive difference. So stay with me. I'm going to show you exactly how to start taking back control of your health. Now, insulin resistance isn't permanent. A lot of people are told that diabetes is chronic and irreversible, and that's a lie. But most people are struggling because they don't have the right tools in place. They don't have the right nutrition. So even if they're getting the sugar out of their diet, they're not getting the right nutrition and they're not getting the right balance, and it's allowing their body to start building back health. So it's like trying to clean up a flood with a paper towel. It's exhausting you. You'll never quite get ahead of the mess. And that's why I use this simple structured protocol that helps your body reset naturally without obsessing over every bite of food. And if you want to know what's working for me and thousands of others, drop info in the chat and I'll send you the details, and then we're going to move on. So Frida, instead of taking vitamins, I get vitamins in a tea that gives me so many other components. That's helping my cholesterol, that's helping my heart, that's helping so many other things. This is my vitamin. I don't have to take pills. I drink the tea. So I'm going to challenge you, when you start to add up all the stuff that you're doing, just cutting out sugar, you're probably spending at least $5 a day to do what you're doing. And this is giving me better health overall. So let's talk about diseases and disorders linked to insulin resistance so you can understand why this is so important. Okay, so some diseases, I'm going to rattle through them and then we're going to go through them all one at a time. Hypertension, which was one of the things I suffered with. Heart disease, joint problems and arthritis, vision loss, diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma. My eyes, the diopter in my glasses were 3.04 years ago. They're now 1.75. How did I reverse eyesight damage in my 60s? By following this protocol. So PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, erectile dysfunction for men, low testosterone, kidney disease, liver disease like NAFLD or NASH, pancreatic failure, and type 2 diabetes. and late onset type 1 diabetes, that's pancreatic failure. Other chronic diseases like Alzheimer's, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, autoimmune conditions are all linked and rooted in insulin resistance. So Kim, let me drop that for you guys over here. I'm going to give you 2 links over on Facebook, YouTube. This first one gets you directly to the protocol that I'm doing, and it allows you to set an appointment to talk to me if you're just not sure and you need more information. Let's do that because I want you to be comfortable. And then this next one is going to give you my whole page. So if you're on Facebook. So this whole video will be on YouTube later. In my link tree, there's a link to all of the platforms I'm on, and YouTube does the best of housing all of these pieces. So go there. And then Kim, let's have a conversation. I'd love to, when I see your information come through, I'll contact you and we'll have a talk about how this works in. By the way, when you do the protocol, I'm coaching you, I'm helping you, I'm telling you how to make it work, because there's so much confusing information out there, and I get it. There's a lot of new people who are doing this and who are trying to do the best they can, but maybe the information they're giving you is not quite right, or it's confusing you. So we're going to hop on the phone, Kim, and we're going to talk about how this is going to fit into your life, because it's easier than people are making it sound, and it doesn't have to be complicated. I want it to be as easy and sustainable for you, all of you, so that you can make real change and actually get your health back once and for all. This isn't about doing something that you're going to feel like you're going to fail or can't sustain. I want you to know you can sustain it. Dr. Naka, I've seen you on. I would love, love, love to serve you and help you out too. So you guys just use those links and let's and then talk to me, because I will talk to you. And if you have specific things, if you're worried, I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist, but I understand this thing so well. I can help you understand, are you getting enough protein, fats, all that stuff. And I will help you with that. Plus, you're getting a 90-day money-back guarantee when you're using this, when you're buying from me. So when you do that, not only are you getting my coaching, you're getting the 90-day money-back guarantee, you're getting a quality guarantee. So you're getting all of that. You don't get that when you order from random places. And who's coaching you does matter. I believe that's true. All right, so let's dive into these disorders, and thank you guys for the responses. I want to get through some of these disorders. Today's live is going to be long. You guys, I always plan these out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much information I want to give. And then I realize, dude, you're going to talk for 2 hours. And I get so excited that I'm exhausted after these. But let's dive into the disorders. I love you all, and thank you. You know what? First of all, those of you who are all responding, thank you for hearing me and standing up and taking control of your health and getting better. Because as a society, as a world, we all need to do better. We're just not given the right tools and information to do it, and that's what I'm here for. Okay, so back to diseases and disorders linked to insulin resistance, so you can understand why this is such a huge deal. Insulin resistance isn't just about blood sugar. It's the hidden force behind so many of your chronic conditions. Think of it like a domino effect. When your body stops responding to insulin, everything starts to break down. Your heart, your hormones, your metabolism, even your brain starts to break down under insulin resistance. So let's dive into those major health issues and why it matters. So we talk about hypertension. You guys, my hypertension was out of control. I was on dual therapy. I was actually on 13 medications 4 years ago. No doctor. I went to so many doctors to try and get my blood pressure under control because it terrified me. My blood pressure was 180 over 150 at some point every day. In my chart in the doctor's office, the lowest we could get my blood pressure to was 150 over 110. One of my doctors was a personal friend, and she was terrified. Anybody want to guess what my blood pressure is today? And I'm off of 13 medications. Does anybody want to guess where that looks like? 61-year-old woman, still a bit fluffy. Where's my blood pressure? Anybody guess? Going from 180 over 150, doing a simple protocol to address insulin resistance. My blood pressure is now 110 over 74 every single day. It's never in that chronically high range ever. And I'm not taking medications for it. Medications are not in actuality fixing the problem. They're like putting out a fire without figuring out why the fire is getting started. So I got off of all the medications and my blood pressure is normal, no medications now at 61. So I want you to imagine your blood vessels like a flexible garden hose. So when insulin resistance is taking over and kicking in, those hoses stiffen and they narrow up, and then they can't broaden back up. I love talking about blood pressure, but we're going to break it brief today. So it's forcing your heart to pump harder. Then you're adding in cholesterol problems. You're adding in that chronic stress that's raising your blood pressure even more, your heart pumping faster even more, but your blood vessels are small and narrow and can't open up. And at the same time, your insulin is telling your kidneys to hold on to more water because it's not able to produce something called aldosterone in the right amounts. So you can't let salt like you should. Your kidneys can't tell when to get rid of it, when to hold on to it. So as a result, you're holding on to more water, and that triggers more pressure in your blood. All triggered. There's 5 ways that insulin resistance is triggering high blood pressure. That's a really brief. You guys, there's a video in YouTube on that, and I go over it every couple of weeks. Go check out why your blood pressure is so high. It's not a lack of medications. It's that insulin resistance is destroying your blood vessels and your heart. Take care of it now, okay? So think of arteries like pipes. When insulin resistance kicks in, it's like rust forming inside narrowing pipes and making it harder for blood to flow. Another way I like to think of it is, think of your blood vessels like a fire hose. When insulin resistance kicks in, it makes that like a garden hose. And now you have the same pressure that you used to put through a fire hose, trying to push it through a garden hose, and your blood pressure is going up. Okay. That's insulin resistance causing that to happen in a number of ways. So if you've ever been told that cholesterol is, I lost track of where I'm at. If you've ever been told cholesterol is the problem, it can be, but cholesterol is not fats, it's sugar that's causing cholesterol. And I'll explain that later. So if you take medication for high blood pressure, I want you to understand that it's not just salt and it's not some of these other things, that if we get the insulin resistance under control, you could get away from those medications and still have your blood pressure normal. I know, because I did it. And my life is completely different. I'm no longer waking up in the night afraid that I'm gonna pass away in the middle of the night. I was tired of going to the emergency room because so many trips to the emergency room for my high blood pressure, nobody was doing anything. I stopped going. Okay. So heart disease, very highly linked to this long-term unregulated hypertension. So doctors often blame high cholesterol for heart disease. But here's the thing, insulin resistance is the real problem with cholesterol. It's increasing your LDL particle size. So you have a couple of different sizes of LDL. You have type A, which is big and buoyant. You have type B, which is small and tight. And you're getting more type B when you have insulin resistance. It messes with how your body creates LDL. There's more than one type of LDL, and most of us don't know that. So LDL-A isn't really damaging, but LDL-B can be really damaging in a number of ways. And I'm not going to go over all that today, but LDL-B creates inflammation in your arteries and triggers plaque buildup that eventually leads to heart attacks. So it's like narrowing those pipes down, narrowing that hose down, and making it harder for blood to flow through. So if you've ever been told your cholesterol is normal, but you still don't feel right, it could be your body telling you, hey, insulin resistance is starting to kick in and we need to take care of it. Your body gives you a lot of warning signs that insulin resistance is happening. So we're going to go over those next. Okay. So when we look at joint problems, I have lost 3 joints. I have 2 hip replacements, 1 knee replacement. The other knee was supposed to be replaced in 2021. It no longer needs to be replaced because I got my insulin resistance under control. All right. When insulin levels are high, inflammation runs wild. It attacks your joints, it breaks down your cartilage, and it causes stiffness and pain and even autoimmune flare-ups. Insulin resistance, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, joint problems, ligament problems, all of that failing because of the inflammation and problems that insulin resistance is causing throughout your body. Okay, so think of it like a car engine that's running hot all the time. Eventually, the parts start to wear out faster than they should, and then you should know that that's insulin resistance. Now, when I had all of those joints going bad, I had a couple of doctors saying, "Hey, Misha, you could regenerate your joints. You don't have to. This isn't a long-term problem. You could regenerate them," but nobody told me how. Nobody told me why they were degenerating. Nobody told me what to do. They just said, "Hey, did you know that your joints will regenerate? Did you guys know that? If you're having joint problems, did you know that you can actually get your joints back in the right conditions?" I was told that, but I wasn't ever shown how. Now, that knee that was supposed to be replaced in 2021, the meniscus is normalized in that knee. We have proof through x-rays. It was almost gone on one side. Now it's thickened out and normalized. The knee doesn't pop, click, cause me any pain at all. Was it medications? Was it cortisol shots? Was it any of that that fixed that knee? No. It was getting my insulin resistance under control. That's what I'm here talking about. Okay, so eyes, vision loss. You're getting older. You think that your eyes are failing because you're just getting older. And yes, there's some age related to it. But if your eyesight's starting to fail really quickly, understand that high insulin levels damage those tiny blood vessels in your eyes, leading to diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, and even blindness. I was rapidly going blind 4 years ago. I had gotten to 3.0 diopter, and I'm like, now what? Now what? I'm going to have to buy specialty glasses. I can't see anything. I can't see in the dark. I can't whatever. And I started addressing my insulin resistance, and at least I'm back to 1.75. I go to my grandson's basketball games every Friday, and guess what? Glasses off, because I can't see in a distance with glasses on. I can see in a distance without glasses on now, and that was impossible 4 years ago. I reversed a lot of eyesight damage by getting my insulin resistance under control. So for women especially, insulin resistance is often, that's the difference. There I was talking about PCOS. High insulin levels damage those tiny blood vessels. So if you ever notice how some people with diabetes end up losing their vision, that's because sugar is literally choking off the blood supply. Remember, we talked about that with the heart. Your blood vessels are getting tinier. That means those tiny blood vessels are starting to die away. This also, guys, leads into erectile dysfunction and gout. Okay, so if your eyes are feeling weaker, blurry, or sensitive to light, that could be your first warning sign. So now we're going to get to these hormonal issues really quick. And I love talking about PCOS too. Just did a talk on that last week. So if you're a woman, understand that insulin resistance is the root cause of PCOS. They used to think that it was genetics. They used to think that it was just, oh, you're too heavy. No, you're too heavy because of insulin resistance, and all of that's triggering the PCOS. All of that's triggering the hormonal imbalance. It's not that you had a hormonal imbalance for most of us first. It's that you hadn't, and you do, because insulin is a hormone, but not a sex hormone, but it interferes with your sex hormones for both women and men. So if you have this insulin resistance problem, women, you can't produce estrogen like you're supposed to. Men, your testosterone gets low. You start putting on weight. And is it all about calorie counting or restriction or any of that? No. It's about understanding this one hormone called insulin. And that hormone, when you can get it under control, everything starts to get better. So think of insulin like the director of your hormones. When it's out of sync, your whole hormonal orchestra plays out of tune. So everything just sounds like, the scritch, scratch, horns going off everywhere. That's what's happening inside of your body with insulin. Your hormones, androgens can't get converted to estrogens. You're having problems with weight. You're having problems with your ovaries. You're having problems with your testes. You're having problems with erectile dysfunction. It's all linked to insulin resistance and insulin. So for men, that ED is often an early sign of insulin resistance. It's not that you're a broken man. Okay. If you're suffering with ED, it's likely that you have an insulin problem that's causing those blood vessels to constrict and you can't get blood flow. It's a food environment that you've been fed and told was healthy that's killing off your blood vessels. and you're suffering. And then for women and men with these hormonal disorders, you feel like you're broken. You feel like you're incomplete. Because I had PCOS and I felt like I wasn't a real woman because I couldn't conceive a child. And I felt like I was broken and like a throwaway and all of that. I get those feelings. But you guys don't have to. Understand that insulin resistance is even interfering with those hormones of estrogens and androgens, and you'll understand why you're feeling the way you feel, and you can actually get better from it by understanding how to fix the hormone insulin. Okay, so I want you guys to think of ED like a garden hose that's been kinked. The flow can't get through the garden hose. Okay, so without good blood flow, nothing works like it should. And I want you to think about if your energy or performance has changed, it's probably not just aging or anxiety or you're broken. It's probably your metabolism and it's probably an insulin problem. Okay. So let's move on to kidneys. Kidney disease linked to insulin resistance. Your body has to have a filter. And one of the biggest filters is one of the smallest but biggest filters is your kidneys. Okay. Your kidneys filter toxins from your blood, but when you have insulin resistance, they get overwhelmed and they start failing and they don't produce aldosterone, so they're holding on to salt and water and they can't filter out other toxins, and it leads to chronic kidney disease and dialysis. I have a guy, I love his story, who had stage 3 kidney disease, was getting all the paperwork ready to go through the surgeries to prepare him for dialysis. And he said, wait, let's just give this a couple of months. Let's give it the 90 days, doc, and let's see what happens. And his doctor was really reluctant, like, you putting your life in danger. And he said, no, I'm going to do this. And he started the protocol. Hey, Michelle, it's good to see you. And within 90 days, his kidney function was returning. His kidneys function normally now. He never had to go on dialysis because he addressed the insulin that was causing his kidneys to malfunction. Okay, so think of your kidneys like coffee filters. When they get clogged with too much sugar, they can't do their job. All right, they just can't do their job. That filter is no longer working. So if you've got swelling in your feet or hands, if you've got foamy urine, if you've got high blood pressure, these could be signs that your kidneys are not functioning properly, which is all leading back to insulin resistance, creating havoc in your kidneys. It all leads back to insulin resistance the majority of the time. Okay, I'm not going to say every time, but the majority of the time. If you guys want to start figuring it out, if you want to start taking care of yourself more and get over some of these things without excess pills and all of this stuff, start getting your insulin under control. All right, so non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm going to start this one. It's not just from alcohol. This one breaks my heart a lot, because when I started this protocol 4 years ago, they said that we had children as young as 6 years old who were being diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I just recently was listening to a doctor, and he said that number is now 3 years old. I'm going to go into non-alcoholic fatty liver really briefly, but I want you to understand this. What in the hell has happened in our world that 3-year-olds are suffering with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? They have not been on this planet long enough to have that disease. Our genetics have not changed that rapidly that they're born with a genetic problem that's causing them to have NAFLD. Fruit juice is probably the biggest problem. So you guys, it makes me cringe every time I see a grandma, a mom, anybody throw a bottle full of fruit juice and give it to a kid and let them suck on it. That's killing your kids' liver. Stop it. Okay, you've got to. So this is why. So non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is one of the biggest red flags of insulin resistance. Your liver is where that sugar starts to get filtered and processed into fat or not fat, where we decide whether we're putting on visceral fat or subcutaneous fat, differences in fat, whether, and fructose, by the way, can only be processed in the liver, and it gets stored in the liver, and that's why it's NAFLD. And fruit juice is fructose without any fiber to protect you from this overload of fructose. That's the real problem. But what's happening is that excess insulin that's being created because of this high energy level, this high glucose and fructose level, causes your liver to store fat even more rapid. Only 5 to 10% of your liver being fat is fatty liver. And most of us are walking around with more fat on our liver than that, and we don't even know it yet. Okay. But that excess fat starts to lead to liver failure. That excess fat on your liver can start to cause problems with your gallbladder. I know I lost my gallbladder. And had anybody told me about insulin resistance years ago, I might still have a gallbladder. Now I have to worry about, like, if I eat the wrong thing before bed, I'm up all night because my gallbladder can't process. And then I'm trying to figure out probiotics and enzymes and all this to help that discomfort go away, because I don't have a gallbladder, because nobody addressed my liver, because nobody told me that insulin was the problem. Don't go down that path, you guys. When a doctor tries to tell you your gallbladder is not necessary, walk away. Go find another doctor. We have it for a reason. It's a tiny organ, but we have it for a reason. Okay, so I should do I'll do a talk on gallbladder maybe sometime this week. I'll do a talk on gallbladder because I think it's so important. All right. So having a fatty liver is like stuffing your closet so full that you can't close the door. And eventually something has to break, right? You just keep stuffing your door, trying to shut it, and it keeps popping open. That's fatty liver. If you've ever been told that you have fatty liver, understand that you already have an insulin resistance problem, whether it comes from alcohol, fruits, or too much glucose. You're having a problem with insulin as a result of all of those things. Okay. No, not again, all of these are not 100% of the time, but the majority of the time. All right. Pancreatic burnout, type 2 diabetes, late onset type 1 diabetes, Alzheimer's. Your pancreas is working overtime to produce insulin, but after years and years of strain, it starts to shut down. And you can be insulin resistant for 10 to 20 years before you ever get the diagnosis of diabetes. They don't test for insulin because they don't have a medication to throw at you for insulin. They have medication for you to throw at you to get your blood sugars down, but they don't have a medication to help your insulin resistance. So they wait till it's high blood sugars and then they throw medications at you. Now you're diabetic. Now you're all got Alzheimer's. Now your pancreas is suffering and failing. And why? It could have been dealt with 10 to 20 years earlier, like it should have been with me. And I'm going to give you some signs and symptoms in just a minute to help you understand if this is you, so you can start to address it now. All right. But another one, so let's go back to that. I want you to think about, if you're always feeling tired, if you're always hungry, if you're always thirsty, that's your pancreas working overtime. Your pancreas is starting to be fatigued and it's saying, help, I need help. You're making me produce too much insulin all the time. And I'm just hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm tired. Help. So when you're having that, know that it's not just, oh, I'm over anxious, or, oh, I need to change my thinking. Oh, I need to change. You need to get your sugar under control so that you can start to get your insulin under control. Okay. So Alzheimer's and dementia, you guys, this is so highly linked to brain disorders, not just Alzheimer's, dementia, but things like ADHD, autism are all very highly linked. It can exacerbate things like bipolar. I've done talks on that. You guys, this is what happens. Scientists are now calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. Okay. It goes high levels of insulin, insulin resistance, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's. That's the progression. Okay. So it has a deep link to insulin resistance. High levels of insulin damage brain cells, leading to memory loss, confusion, and brain fog. You forget where your keys are. You struggle with focus. That's more than just aging. That's more than you being uncontrolled. It's a warning sign that your insulin is out of control. If you're struggling with those things, is it you that's broken, or is it a food environment that's breaking you? It's more likely the food is breaking you and causing an insulin resistance problem. So most people think that, sorry, there's phone calls and messages coming in everywhere. If you think that these are all issues are separate. They all share one common root cause, and that's insulin. Does anybody need me to go over all of those things first before we go on, or you got it? Because it's widespread and there's more than I talked about, but we're just going to talk about those. Most people think those issues are separate, but I want you to understand if you have one of them, you're probably insulin resistant. If you're looking at that list and going 2, 3 of those, then you better start addressing your insulin resistance. We're going to go over symptoms now. If you're not there yet, pay attention to the symptoms so that you can get this taken care of before it becomes all of those things. So, if any of those conditions are familiar to you, you're not alone. It ruins your life, and by the time that you get diagnosed with something more serious like prediabetes, NAFLD, your insulin resistance has already been wreaking havoc for years. Like I said, 10 to 20 years. But here's the thing. Most solutions only manage the symptoms. They're not fixing the insulin resistance. So they're putting out the fire in one place, but a fire is building someplace else because you didn't take away the fuel that's creating the fire. Okay. So they don't actually help your body. What did for me is a simple 3-drink protocol that works at the root and works on multiple facets of it, supporting insulin function and making blood sugar more stable, helping my gut microbiome, helping my energy, helping me get nutrients to my body. So if you want the details, just type in tell me more. I'm going to move on to the next section, but if you say tell me more, I'll message you. I'll put the link out, or you can go to my link in bio on TikTok and find it there. Because waiting until things get worse, waiting until you get past the symptoms that I'm going to be talking about, and you end up with kidney problems, that swelling, heart disease, heart hypertension, all of those things, that's not a strategy. It's a strategy if you're trying to get sicker quicker, but if you're trying to stay healthy, you got to pay attention to insulin resistance right away. Okay, so let's talk about symptoms. All right, most people, Wayne, I just got your message. I'll text you after this, okay? So most people don't realize they're insulin resistant until they've been diagnosed with something serious, like the ones we just talked about. But your body gives you warning signs every day, long before it happens. You just have to know what to look for. I didn't know. I know now. And so guess what? Even though I'm taking care of mine, there are some symptoms that I'm constantly checking, that I'm like, okay, am I still managing? Because I don't test my blood sugars anymore all the time. I don't test all that, but there's physical symptoms that I look for. If I ever see those symptoms starting to return, I'm like, you got to tighten up your ship, Shelly. You got to figure this out. So let's break it down, because if you recognize multiple symptoms from this list I'm about to give you, it's time to take action. All right. The top 5 symptoms are going to be things like that high blood pressure I talked about. That's your first sign. 130 over 180 or higher, or 130 over 80 or higher. That's chronically elevated in hypertension. That is insulin resistance. 95% of all hypertension is rooted in insulin resistance. The easiest way to take care of your your hypertension is not just pills and dual therapy to get water out of your system, to reduce your cholesterol, to do all that. It's getting rid of the root cause, and that's insulin resistance. Okay, so high blood pressure. There's 2 skin disorders, and we're actually going to expand that to 3, but 2 skin disorders that are going to tell you that you're insulin resistant right off the bat. Thank you, Jenny. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. So skin tags, those are not, they're benign little growths of skin, but they're not just, oh, hey, I'm getting older, because that's what I thought. Those are a sign that you have insulin resistance. Maybe I should do, anybody want me to do a live on skin later this week? Because that's another one I love to talk about, and I haven't for a while. Skin tags. Dark skin patches around your neck. I had melasma really bad. I had dark skin patches on my elbows, on my knees, and they were scaly and rough. I don't have any. If I see any darkening of this skin here, that's my one sign, like, oh, shoot, you're getting insulin resistance again. Take care of it. If you have those patches, white, black, I don't care what color, that's insulin resistance. Okay, skin tags, insulin resistance, and they're going to show up on your neck, on your eyelids, in your underarms, in your groin, and the dark skin patches are going to show up anywhere skin rubs. So it could be on the back of your neck. It could be, I've seen it on people's ankles, on your knees for sure, on your elbows. That's a sign of insulin resistance. The third skin sign is going to be cystic acne. Overproduction of fats in your sebaceous glands are causing that, and that's caused by insulin resistance. Okay. That's caused by your diet causing insulin resistance. So, hypertension, the skin issues. The other two issues I've already mentioned once before. If you've been diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, low testosterone, or erectile dysfunction, you're insulin resistant, start taking care of it. Your weight, ladies with PCOS, is not just because you gained weight and now you're PCOS. You had insulin resistance that made you gain weight, that caused hormonal disruption, and now you have PCOS. Okay. Insulin resistance is at the root of all of this. In fact, they say that it's at the root of 95% of the chronic diseases and disorders that we have today. Okay, so now there's some other symptoms that I want you guys to be aware of. All right. That belly, that's not the best picture of my belly. I had a belly that at 57, you might have swore I was pregnant. If you're thin, if you're heavy, if you're a man, if you're a woman, if your belly is protruding, that's a sign that you have an insulin resistance problem. What's happening is your brain is telling you to store fat underneath the muscle wall of the belly, fat that's high in mitochondria, and that fat is supposed to be cushioning and warming your organs. But with insulin resistance, it's starting to choke them out. Now you're having non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now you're having kidney disease. Now you're having stomach problems. Now you're having intestinal problems and heart problems and lung problems and on and on. And it even gets up into your throat and in your tongue, sleep apnea. That's all rooted in insulin resistance. Okay. So that bloated belly is not just a bloated belly. It's a warning sign, a big fat warning sign saying insulin is a problem. Let's take care of it. Okay. So if you have constant cravings and hunger, that's another sign, especially if you're hungry after meals, or if you get tired, fatigued, feeling cold, or goosebumps after you eat, that's insulin resistance causing your blood sugar to be wildly dysregulated. Okay. You ate, but you're just still thinking about food. 30 minutes later, you still want to grab for something. 20 minutes later, you want to grab for something and you want something sweet, but that still doesn't satiate it. It's like you're just more hungry for more. That is insulin resistance making it harder for your cells to absorb energy. So you're constantly craving that sugar because your cells are saying, I'm starving, I need energy. But because of insulin resistance, it can't get the energy in your cells. Conundrum, right? So you're eating more, causing more insulin resistance, causing more of this depleted energy in your cells. And guess what? If you're insulin resistant in your body, you're insulin resistant in your brain at the same time. So brain fog, headaches, all of that starting to happen because your brain is not getting energy because of insulin resistance. It's not just happening in your body. Okay. So if you have excess weight that you just started putting on weight no matter what you eat, and you can't get rid of it, if you store weight in your belly, your back, your upper arms, that's classic insulin resistance pattern. Okay. Understand that. So if you have trouble losing that weight, which was totally me, I did all the healthy things. I did everything that I was supposed to, and I couldn't lose more than 5 pounds. I felt stuck and I gave up. And I was like, why the hell am I trying if this isn't working? And I went back to eating whatever foods that I felt made me feel happy because I wasn't able to lose the weight because insulin resistance is blocking you. And it's not so much about the food we're eating. It's about the timing we're eating. We're eating too often. So you could eat healthy foods, and if you're eating every 2 hours, like most coaches are telling you to do, you're causing more of an insulin resistance problem, and then you're wondering why you're not getting better. Maybe you get better for a short period of time, and then as your metabolism starts to get destroyed because you're eating all the time, you start struggling more, and then you're like, nothing works for me, I give up. Okay? It's not your fault, you guys. It's not your fault. You just haven't had the right information. You haven't had the right vehicles. You haven't had the right tools. You haven't had the right information to understand why you're so sick. So if you have frequent thirst in your urination, remember we talked about kidneys. Your kidneys are suffering. It's likely insulin resistance. That's one of your first clues. Like you waking up all night to go pee. You haven't been diagnosed with diabetes yet. You're probably insulin resistant. Start taking care of the insulin, and that's going to go away, and you'll probably never get that diagnosis of diabetes. Okay, so it also causes hormone imbalances, and we talked about sex hormones a little bit ago. So things like converting androgens to estrogens gets wildly dysregulated. As men put fat on, they're converting too much androgens into estrogens. As women are suffering, they're having their ovaries not converting androgens into estrogens, and it's causing this whole um, sex hormone and fertility dysfunction. But guess what? It's also messing with your cortisol, which is a hormone. It's messing with leptin and ghrelin, which are hormones. It's messing with your thyroid hormones. All of those things dysfunctioning can be linked back to insulin resistance. So when I say hormonal dysfunction, it's not just about testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. It's about leptin, ghrelin, cortisol, thyroid hormones, and others that cannot function like they're supposed to under the threat of insulin. Too much insulin in your body. So if you have a large appetite and you're feeling hungry after you eat, if you've had a meal and you just immediately feel like you want something to eat, that's insulin resistance driving your cravings. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. If you're feeling more tired after you ate instead of energized, like I used to get goosebumps after I ate, and I would feel so fatigued. And all everybody could tell me was, oh, it's just your body digesting the food you ate. You're getting older. It's just your body digesting. That's all it is. No, it's not. It's a blood sugar roller coaster, pinball machine in your body that's taking you from a high blood sugar level to a low blood sugar level. You have energy, but then it's gone. That's insulin resistance causing those dips after you eat. Like, okay, turkey has some tryptophan in it, but you know what? The mashed potatoes, the cranberries, the bread, the everything else we eat it with it are causing a high blood sugar spike, and the low blood sugar spike after is probably the real reason why you feel tired after any holiday dinner, and you're just being told, oh, it's just the this, it's just the that. No, it's not. It's a blood sugar dysregulation problem causing insulin to do too much work and doing it so crazy that you're in this blood sugar pinball machine. Okay. So if any of those things sound familiar to you, if you were listening and you're like, yeah, I've got this one and I've got this one and maybe I have that one, two or more of those things, you guys better start looking at your insulin resistance and taking care of it if you want to take care of your health long term. Okay, so now, all right, I told you all the symptoms, I told you a bunch of the disorders. You're like, but how am I going to tell it's me if you're telling me that doctors don't test for insulin, if they don't do all that until I'm already diabetic? How you gave me some symptoms, but now some people just want to have a real clinical way to tell. Here's what you're going to do. Everybody should be getting annual labs. In your annual lab, thank you, Penny K. In your annual labs, you'll have a cholesterol panel, and I don't care what those numbers are. I'm not gonna tell you if your triglycerides are above this or if your HDL is below that we're worried. What the only thing I want you to look at is this. You're gonna extract two numbers from that cholesterol panel, and that's gonna be your triglyceride number and your HDL number. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna divide that number that your triglycerides fell in at it, and you're gonna divide it by your HDL. That resulting number should be 2 or less. Generally, if you're under 2 or less, you're okay. New science is saying they would like it to be 1.5 or less. But definitely, if it's hitting 3 or higher, you got a problem, address it. For me, if it's anything above 2, you need to start addressing it because you're heading in the wrong way. Hey, Insulin Insights. So I love talking about insulin. We should talk. So that's a simple calculation. On TikTok, there is a tab called How to Tell. That calculation is in there if you need to go back to it later. Okay. Triglycerides divided by HDL. That's going to tell you a couple of things. It's going to tell you about your insulin resistance. It's going to tell you about your propensity for heart disease or high blood pressure. It's going to tell you about your LDLB pattern. The higher that number is, the more of that small, dense LDLB I talked about earlier is being produced, and now you're going to have a cholesterol and a blockage problem. That number is giving you a lot of insights into your health based on labs you've already done. There are some other labs you can do, and they're listed in that How to Tell tab, so go check them out. But look, if you recognized any of these simple symptoms from that list, your body is speaking, and I want you to listen. If you have multiple of those symptoms, your body is telling you, I'm in danger. I need help. I need help. So please listen to your body. It's the best thing you can listen to is your own body. So if you checked off more than one of those or a couple of those symptoms, your body's asking for help. The problem is that most people either ignore the signs or are stuck trying to fix things with quick fixes, with medications, with a diet that's unsustainable, and they don't actually work long term. And then you give up. I used to think I just needed more discipline or a better diet because that's what dietitians, nutritionists, doctors, gym bros were all telling me. I just wasn't disciplined enough. I just wasn't eating well enough. And remember, I did both keto, I did vegetarianism, I did metabolic, I did the medical medium, and I worked out 3 hours a day. So was it really a me thing? The real issue isn't that my body was that I was doing so much wrong. It's just that my body wasn't responding to the food the way it should. That's why I talk about this protocol. It's a simple system, 2 real food drinks, gluten-free, halal, and it works the way it's supposed to, helping your body support and do what it's meant to do by giving it back the things that have been stripped out. If you want to know more, drop help in the chat and I'll get you that link now, but we're going to move on because I want to talk about the food environment and why it's making us sick. And I'm going to address your questions, Melody. So she says, you're on Monjaro and just found out it's doing damage to your kidneys, and your kidney doctor is, boy. Melody, later this week, I'm going to do a talk, and I just did one on GLP-1. So GLP-1 is extremely important. It helps you feel satiated. It gives you some energy. It helps you become more insulin sensitive. But in the amounts they're giving it in those drugs, Mounjaro, Ozempic, tirzepatide, um, it's too much for your body. And it's in a form that doesn't break down. That's why you have to inject it. And nothing in your body should be stable like that all the time. Your body is supposed to ebb and flow. Lights go on, lights go off, daytime, nighttime. We're not seeing that with those drugs. And they're 300 to 500 times more than they're supposed to be to elicit that. So kidney problems, pancreas problems, blockages in your intestine. And I'm so sorry that doctors are not telling you the truth about those drugs. If you want a more natural solution to that, Melody, you can either reach out to me or finish listening to this, because what I'm doing allows your body to produce its own GLP-1 that ebbs and flows, and it is an amount that's appropriate for your body, allowing you to still feel that satiety and energy and insulin sensitivity, allowing you to lose weight in a more natural way. The other thing that they don't talk about with those drugs is that some of them can cause up to 40% of your weight loss being muscle loss. So think about it like this. If you lose 100 pounds and 40% of it is muscle loss, you've only lost 60 pounds of fat. You go off of those because they haven't told you what's really causing the problem, right? And you start to gain the weight back. Most people on those drugs start gaining the weight back within 2 years. Their hunger comes back within 2 years. All the problems come back within 2 years. And now, as you gain weight back and you put on 100 pounds, you're not putting on 40 more pounds of muscle and 60 more pounds of fat. You've lost the 40 pounds of muscle. You're probably putting on 100 pounds of fat. And that's really damaging to your metabolism. And they don't talk about it enough. Okay. Yes. Okay. So we're gonna get to that in a second. If you're interested in it, go to the link in my bio, right under the red light symbols, the siren symbols in my bio, and there's a link to the protocol there. It will explain it in brief, and then you can make a decision whether you want to talk to me more one-on-one before you make a choice. I'm totally happy with that. I would love to help you. So if you need, some more answers for you, let's have a conversation. Okay. And that link is going to get you to both my WhatsApp or a place where you can just schedule a time to talk to me. And let's help you out. Okay. If you just want to get started, it has a 90-day money back guarantee. It's all natural. It doesn't interfere with any medications, and it's going to only build your health and not tear it down. So Marilyn McVeigh, let's type in this over here for you. So this is, sorry, I didn't catch that earlier. That's the link to the product, and this is the link directly to my page where you're going to find some other information we're going to talk about in a minute. I do have a free ebook for y'all called 6 Simple Steps. It's going to go over the things you can start to do to get your insulin resistance under control. Look, I do sell a product. I do help people with insulin resistance and their metabolic health, but I am a caring person. I do want everybody to be healthy. I do understand not everybody can make the investment. So I've created this ebook so that you can do what's right for you. I don't know why this changed over here. Let's fix that. Okay. Let's get back to this talk. So I want to go over the modern food environment really quickly so you can understand what's really happening, that it's not a lack of medications, it's not a lack of willpower, it's not a lack of you being a bad person or not doing the right things. We want to figure out why it's happening so that you can actually start to get better. Okay? So most people think insulin resistance is just about eating too much sugar, right? Or that you're just eating too much. But the real problem is so much deeper than that, you guys. It's not just what we eat, but how our food has been changed over the past few decades. So when somebody was on saying earlier, saying, I just cut out sugar, that's great. That can work for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone because we do have different metabolisms and our body responds to different nutrients and food differently. That is one clue. I want you guys to understand where your genetics come from and look at the diet that your people thrived on and follow that. So if you're Hispanic, eat what you eat. If you're Indian, eat what you eat. If I'm Native American, so we had a diet high in red meats, and the only real fruits we got were maybe some cranberries. Okay, so that's how I tend to eat, and I've done really well that way. So pay attention to that. But let's talk about this. So today's food, you guys, is 40 to 70% less nutrient dense than it was just 50 years ago. Did you know that? That you could be eating an orange, you could be eating kale, you could be eating whatever it is that you think is going to make you healthy, but it's 40 to 70, and beets were one of the worst ones. 40 to 70% less dense in the nutrients that we're eating them for than they were when I was 10 years old. And we wonder why we're sick. So that means even if you're eating healthy, you're probably still nutrient deficient. And guess what? Insulin resistance is blunting how much nutrients you can absorb. So now you have insulin resistance that's making it harder for you to absorb nutrients, and you have food that's less dense in nutrients, and you wonder why you're sick. I'm talking vitamins and minerals. You wonder why you're sick. You can't absorb it, and you're not getting it in the foods, even from the produce aisle, that you need. So our soil is depleted, and so are we. If you listen to two people that, if you haven't heard of them, please go listen to them. Dr. Casey Means and Dr. Callie Means, brother and sister. One was working as a doctor. The other was working as a lobbyist in the food industry. They have a lot of knowledge to share about what is happening with our food. Casey Means was saying that 80% of our doctors never receive one nutritional course. It's offered, but most of them don't take it. So how are they supposed to address nutritional problems for you when they've never had education on? What they've had education on is cells and medications and body systems. Okay. And then they're pushed to be specialized more and more. So when you take in a list of symptoms to doctors, what you're getting is go here, go there, and nobody's putting it all together. And that's what we should be doing. So Dr. Casey and Dr. Callie are the founders of Levels Health, and they've been sounding off about how our food system is making us sick. And one of their biggest concerns is soil depletion. So because of industrial farming, a lack of rotation of crops, a lack of proper fertilization, our crops are 40 to 70% less in vitamins and minerals than they were just a few decades ago. The crop rotation means that crop rotation is supposed to be because you let the soil rest and replete in some things, and you move one crop to another place and you move another crop here so that the soil is constantly being able to rebuild. We haven't been doing that. Same crop, same soil, year after year after year, and the soil is just being sucked out of its nutrients. Crop rotation is extremely important. That's why we did it for thousands of years until recently. Okay, so TikTok checking in. All right, so the crop rotation is causing problems. Um, the soil depletion is causing problems, and then we're using synthetic fertilizers with glyphosates. And you guys, you rinse your foods, but let's be honest, that stuff soaks into your food. So you can rinse it, you can wash it, and that's a better choice. But you're still going to be getting some of that, especially with your grains like wheats are high in glyphosates, and that's probably the truth of why people are more gluten intolerant than ever. Is it the gluten or is it the glyphosate? Think about it, and you go do your own research and figure that out. I'm gonna say for me, I believe it's the glyphosates. I had pastries in France when I was traveling, didn't have all the IBS problems I have when I have it here. The US is saturating our stuff in glyphosates, and it's not good for us. It's a toxin we shouldn't be getting. Okay, so I want you to think of your body like a car that needs premium fuel. If you have one of those high efficiency cars, you just keep dumping in the lowest grade of fuel, your engine's going to start to break down, right? You're putting in watered down gas. The engine is breaking down. It's exactly what's happening to our bodies because our food is weaker and our bodies are paying the price. We're no longer getting high octane fuel, we're getting a weak version of it. And our bodies are like, I can't run on this. You want me to be high efficient on a low efficient diet? What's up here? Well, we're getting sick because of it. So, have you ever eaten a meal that you're like your belly's out to here and you know that you've eaten enough, but you still feel hungry? You feel empty somehow in your body, even though your body's still poking out? That's insulin resistance. That's not getting enough nutrients in the food that you're eating. And it's going to cause you to be more hungry later. And now you're taking in more calories than you should, spiking more insulin resistance. Now, we have those genetically modified and over processed crops. That's a problem too. So, most of the food in our grocery stores has been altered to be bigger, better, sweeter, more resistant to pests. I didn't pull up the pictures, you guys, but there's one. Go look up what our foods used to look like. I want you to look up bananas. The bananas we have today that are big, big fat bananas, sweet, really sweet. Some people can't even eat bananas anymore because they're so sweet. If you go look at what an organic banana is supposed to look like, they're high in fiber and they're packed with these little round black seeds that are like pebbles. They're so hard, they're like pebbles. You can't chew them, you can't eat them. That's nature's way of slowing you down, getting that fructose in your system too quickly. And we said, we don't want to deal with all those seeds. We don't want to deal with all of that. We're just going to strip those out. We're going to have the sweet, sweet, delectable interior, and we're going to eat that. But guess what? Now you're getting sugar to your system too quick, and it's causing more insulin resistance. Same thing. I was just thinking watermelons. Go look up. I remember from my childhood, like having to spit out seeds. I hated watermelon because I didn't want to spit out the seeds all the time. And then over time, now we have watermelons that have seeds that are so tiny that they're not even a problem. You just eat the fruit. So this thing that was high in fiber surrounding the watermelon and full of seeds to slow you down has been destroyed and changed. And now what we have is sugar water in a shell. That's what watermelon is to me now. Okay, I love it, but I don't eat very much of it because I understand how quickly that is going to your bloodstream. So we've genetically modified things. This is one of my favorite visuals here. So if you take a look at this is what about the size of a natural peach 50, 60 years ago. They were small, they were dense, they were crunchy, a little bit sweet, a little bit juicy, but much harder, more like an apple than they are now. Now our peaches are at least this size, and they're sweet and juicy, not very crunchy, not very tart, because we stripped out all the fiber that made them small, dense, and crunchy and pumped up the fructose. That's the part that's causing non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and insulin resistance. And this is what we're eating. And because we buy it from the produce aisle and those bananas and that watermelon, and we could go on, we think we're eating healthy, but we're getting way more sugar than we suspect. And we're getting it without the fiber that's helping us slow down how that sugar digests in our system. So those genetically modified and overprocessed crops are not doing you good. They've all been removed of, and corn was a grain. It wasn't, we consider it a vegetable right now, right? Corn is a grain. It was never this big and juicy. It's been modified, and we're paying the price for all of those modifications. So, wheat, corn, and soy are not the same as they were 50 years ago. They've been modified to contain much more starch and sugar. That means our glucose levels, our sugar spiking in our blood system, making us produce more and more insulin as a result of eating the same foods that I could have eaten 50 years ago and not had that reaction to. Okay. So the refining of our foods is also stripping away that fiber and essential nutrients, leaving behind empty calories. A lot of sugar without a lot of nutrients, and a lot of sugar without a way to regulate that from hitting your bloodstream too quick. So imagine if you took an apple from 1950 and an apple from today. Same thing. Remember, I was just talking about peaches. Apples are the same. I remember, because I'm a country girl. You guys, I'm a country girl. I am not a city person. We lived out in the country. We had our own farm. We grew our own. We didn't have a ranch or anything. We had cows and pigs and goats and all the stuff, and we grew our own stuff. We had apple trees, but I used to pick apples that were falling on the ground, and the same thing. They were about maybe a little bigger. Maybe they were the size of this, and now they're much bigger than this. Same thing happened as with peaches, right? They're sweeter, they're juicier, they're not as tart and crunchy. Okay, that's what's happening. It has less vitamin C, fewer minerals, and more sugar per bite than it did 50 years ago. So if you've noticed that even healthy foods don't seem as satisfying to you anymore, that's why. Because they've been so modified that they're missing key nutrients that your body needs. Okay, so then let's talk about the glyphosates and the pesticides. So they actually disrupt your insulin, making you more insulin resistant. So Dr. Casey Means, go listen to her, you guys, warns you that your food is less nutrient dense, it's less nutritious, it's actively toxic. Those glyphosates, like Roundup that's sprayed on the foods, are known endocrine disruptors, meaning they will mess with your hormones, including your hormone of insulin. So pesticides damage your gut bacteria, and that plays a major role in your blood sugar balance. So when your gut bacteria, when your good bacteria is damaged and you're overflowing with the negative bacteria, you're naturally going to create a more of a craving for sugar. Much less the body needing energy, that gut bacteria that's negative thrives on sugar. So as it's overtaking, it's going to make you crave even more sugar. And guess what? The glyphosates are killing off the good bacteria, but not so much the negative bacteria. Okay, so fruit juices are just fruits that are stripped of the already very little fiber that's in them. So now what you have is some nutrients, but you have a high load of fructose. And because your body's driving that, you're not really getting the nutrients out of the juice that you think you are, because your body is shutting down to taking all that in. So most processed foods have little to no fiber, and that's what's causing blood sugar to spike rapidly. I want you to think of fiber like a traffic light for your digestion. It slows down how fast sugar enters your bloodstream, and that prevents insulin spikes. But without fiber, it's a blood sugar roller coaster. Your blood sugar spikes and it drops low. You're getting way too much too soon, and then it's getting out of your body because insulin's like, whoa, there's this overload. We got to get it gone. Instead of a nice, steady delivery of energy, you're feeling like you're in a pinball machine, just being bounced all over the place with your blood sugar. It's all to do with insulin resistance and insulin dysregulation because of high amounts of sugar, because of all of this processing that's been happening to our foods, even our produce. Okay. Fiber is key. What stops that blood sugar roller coaster pinball machine is fiber. It slows down how quickly that sugar hits your bloodstream and allows you to have a more normal insulin response, allows you to not have low blood sugars later. Okay. So if you're not getting in 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day, you're not getting in enough. Most people are only getting in 10 to 15 grams, and it's not enough to regulate the blood sugars that are created because of the foods that we're eating. So I'm going to talk about fats, and then we're going to go into my 6 Simple Steps book. Okay. So fats, you guys, we're eating the wrong fats. Dr. Ansel Keys, about 70 years ago, had this idea without any scientific proof that fats were causing heart disease because there was fat buildup in the hearts, right? So it had to be fats that was causing it. So then everybody got on this low fat diet and they started creating modified things that were produced as oil, and they were labeling it as healthier oils. The truth is, some of those oils were made to be machine oils. They were never made for human consumption. But guess what? Because they're made from a food source, they were allowed to market them as a food. So they're highly processed, they're bleached, they have perfumes added. It's why they have such a high flash point, why we can have so many fried foods, because they're in a state that's not natural and normal. The fats you should be eating are extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, real whole milk butter, and ghee. And then things like tallow and the fats that are attached naturally to your meats, and the cholesterol driving egg yolks. That's a line of bullshit. But stop it. Stop eating just the egg whites. You need the fat. I've done talks on that. I'm not going to go into that today. But the fact that we're getting these oils that are in light colored bottles, that means they're not oxidizing. That means that they don't go rancid. And a natural oil that's healthy for you should go rancid if it's exposed to light. So that's why you see high quality olive oil, avocado oil packaged in green or brown glass bottles, because they're trying to protect it from the light that makes it go rancid. If it's not packaged like that, with the exception of coconut oil, you shouldn't be using it. Okay? So what's happening with that is that these seed oils like canola oil, soy, corn, sunflower are inflammatory and they cause insulin resistance. The motorcycle behind me, no, the trans fats that are found in fast foods and processed foods, they damage your cells and they create chronic inflammation, and inflammation makes more insulin resistance. So the fats that are actually supporting your health, like the ones I named, you're being told not to eat them, right? They've been demonized. You've been said, oh, those are so bad for you, don't eat them. They're all listed in my book, 6 Simple Steps. So if you're eating the wrong kind of fats, that's making you more insulin resistant, making you have even more troubles regulating your blood sugar. So it's important to use the right fats. There are no seed oils in my house. The oils in my house are all of those. I have coconut oil because I use it for my skin. I use it for nasal infections. I use it for a lot of things. Use it to clean my mouth. It's antibacterial. It's great. I have extra virgin olive oil in a dark green bottle. I have avocado oil in a dark green bottle, and I have butter. Those are the oils in my house, nothing else. Okay. Those are the oils you want to eat if you want to be healthy. And I can tell right away now that I've cleaned the other things out. When I get a hold of the other oils, boy, do I get sick right away. I start having gastrointestinal disorders. I have aches and pains. I have swelling, and it's from those nasty, nasty oils that they're telling us are healthy, and they're not. Okay. So you're not failing because you're a bad person. You're not failing because you know better and you're just not doing better. You're failing because you're being given the wrong information, or you're not being given the information at all. So let's dive into my 6 Simple Steps book, and that's going to help you. You guys, that link is also in my link tree, which I've posted in both places. So you can get it in my profile. But look, it's free to you guys. Download it, read it, just have that resource to go, what am I supposed to be doing? How do I do this? Okay. So it's things like fiber first, prioritize protein, fill with fats, limit carbs, do some time-based eating, and move your body. And then there's 2 bonuses I threw in there for you guys lately. Probably going to keep expanding it just because I want you guys to have good information. So I also have a foods list for people who are doing the system. I can send you a foods list of the foods that you should be eating when if you're trying to get your insulin levels down, and foods that you should avoid. All of those are free resources because I want people healthy. So fiber first. Fiber is like your blood sugar shield. Imagine like fiber like a bouncer at a club. Okay, so it's controlling the speed at which sugar enters your bloodstream, preventing massive insulin spikes, preventing that chaos that can go on inside when the wrong things are added in too quickly, right? So fiber slows digestion, keeps you fuller longer, and reduces cravings. It feeds gut bacteria, improving your insulin sensitivity. Feeding your gut bacteria does so much. I don't have time to talk about it today. It helps your body eliminate toxins, including excess insulin. So start every meal with fiber-rich foods, or use the supplement I'm going to talk about. I take it every time I eat, and it's just adding in high quality fibers that are specifically designed to help me reduce an insulin spike. Um, Glucose Goddess always talks about start with a veggie starter. I agree with that. Better yet, I just make it simple for me, and I do the fiber that I just dump in water and drink down. So if you've ever noticed that you're still hungry after you've eaten a meal full of processed foods, that's because fiber is missing. Fiber not only helps you with blood sugar and insulin and all that, it helps you feel fuller longer, helps you feel satiated, and we're missing it. Okay. So we need to get in fiber before we eat. Then prioritize protein. This is a big one. We have three macronutrients in our food. We have protein, we have fats, and we have carbohydrates. If it's not a protein and it's not a fat, then it is a carbohydrate. Some carbohydrates have protein in them, but it goes like this. Proteins are the most satiating, fats are the next most satiating, and carbohydrates are the least satiating, meaning you stay fuller longer of those three macronutrients. Protein, even it's keeping you fully feeling fuller. It's also giving you building blocks. It's also giving you a number of other nutrients, but it spikes your glucose, your insulin far less than carbohydrates do. Fats are the next most satiating, the fats I talked about, but they don't spike your insulin at all. Carbohydrates leave you feeling hungry, and they're spiking your insulin. So really a diet high in protein and fats is the best way to go. I still start off everything with fiber because I'm not perfect. Yesterday I had some amazing chicken cordon bleu I made at home. The crust on it was pork rinds, and I made my own Alfredo sauce, high fat. Um, had a little bit of carbohydrates because of the fats in it, but I had some leftover mac and cheese from my weekend with my grandson, and some leftover barbecue chicken I made. And so I had barbecue chicken on mac and cheese last night. I definitely had my fiber before I had that. All right, so protein prevents blood sugar crashes, keeping your blood sugars more stabilized, spiking your insulin far less. Protein helps build muscle. It helps keep you full for hours. And so what you want to do is aim for about, if you're an active mid-aged adult, you want about a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. If you're older and more sedentary like me, then you want about 0.8 grams of protein per pound of ideal body weight. For most of us, that's going to mean 100 to 150 grams of protein. If you're doing some intermittent fasting, you're going to need to focus on getting in about 50 grams of protein per meal. That's going to leave you feeling full, and you're going to feel less like snacking by doing all of that. Okay, so start your day with protein, fiber, and fats. It's going to leave you feeling fuller longer. You're going to have less of those breakthrough cravings. You're not going to feel like having sweets and snacks all the time. And your body's actually going to start getting the nutrients it needs. Okay, so if you're struggling to get enough, then go ahead and use a clean protein powder. Now we do have a protein powder that we use that I love. It mixes really well, and they just came out with a new form that's actually mixed with MCT oils, because every time you eat protein, you should be eating fats. Okay, protein and fats are just like carbohydrates and fiber. They got to go together. Stop eating the lean meats. That's not really doing you a lot of good. It's probably causing you more damage. Fats in your arteries are not coming from fats in your diet unless they're those seed oils. They're coming from seed oils and sugar. They're not coming from things like the fats on your meat. They're there for a reason. They should be there. Okay. So fill with the right fats. We've already talked about that. Avocado, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, butter, ghee. What they do is they help you slow down glucose absorption. So you're having less blood sugar spikes. They don't spike your blood sugar, but remember to avoid those inflammatory seed oils. Cook with butter, ghee, or olive oil. No, you're not going to cook at higher heats. Those higher heats are damaging your food, causing more toxins that are causing more inflammation anyway. So eat fat with carbs to prevent glucose surges. Now, that's a little different than a lot of people would tell you, but when I make a protein shake, I make sure that there's fat in it. So I'll put in a little bit of cream cheese. I'll put in maybe some cottage cheese. I'll put in avocado is a really great way to put it in, and mix my protein shake up with that. And now I have a balanced protein with fat that's really satiating. When you add that fat in, you're going to figure out that those protein shakes can keep you satiated for hours. Then you're going to limit your carbs, but make them count. So you want to stick with above ground fruits and veggies, right? Root vegetables are generally higher in starches and sugars than the ones above ground. So dark, leafy green, darker colored vegetables above ground are where you want to focus. Okay. Whole foods. Yeah, you can have some sweet potatoes and potatoes once in a while, but understand they're higher in starches, higher in sugars. You're going to spike your insulin higher. Okay. So the food that you want to eat, for me, my meal goes like this. I have my fiber first. I fill up with protein, paired with some fats, and then if I have room left, I'll fill in with vegetables like asparagus, or I don't love broccoli anymore. I used to love broccoli. We have carrots, but they're very high in sugar. So asparagus is one of the foods that I love. Green beans. It's pretty simple. My plate's pretty simple. That's how I eat. Now, beyond those four food things, what you want to do is do some time based eating. If you understand that every time you eat, you're spiking your insulin, especially if you're eating anything that's fruits, vegetables, carbohydrates, you're spiking your insulin. And if you're being told to eat every 2 hours, and if you're being told to balance all that out with some Ezekiel bread or whatever, you're still spiking your insulin. And you're spiking it every 2 hours. And that's not good for you. So give your body a break. We're not meant to eat as often as we're eating. Let it slow down from all of that. So last night I was up until 2 a.m. I did have a couple pork rinds at 1 a.m. I ate just before I had this live. I haven't really had a full meal. I had a couple of bites of some protein before I will stop. When I stop this live, I will go have more protein and fats, and then I'll see if I need another meal today. But give your body a break. Your body needs time to digest and allow the hormones to change. One of the big reasons for this give your body a break is after you've spiked your insulin. Hey, Jim, your body takes about 8 hours for this hormone that we've been talking about all day, insulin, to go down. What you need to understand is two main hormones with your metabolism: insulin and glucagon. Insulin is trying to store sugar, meaning store fat. It's anabolic. It wants to hold on to things. It's not going to let you break anything down. It's going to make you store fat. It's going to make you to hold on to it. And the higher insulin, the less likely you are to burn fat. Glucagon is trying to raise your blood sugar back up because you stopped eating. And how that's going to do it is it's going to break down fat to get nutrients and energy, but it's also going to allow you to use up old and dying cells that need to go anyway. When you're in an insulin-fed state, you're not removing cells that need to go. So you start having more inflammation. You have start more oxidation. You have more of these problems. You've got to let glucagon out, but it does not come out for about 10 hours after you stop eating. It takes another few hours for its magic to start happening. So we like a 16-hour fast. Now between hours 14 and 16, you're getting some real good turnover of fats and nutrients and allowing your metabolism to reset. And then you can eat again. It's not necessarily about calories. It's about constantly spiking your insulin. You got to get that to stop. Paired with those 4 food things I just talked about, that's going to make you a more insulin sensitive. And it's easier than you can imagine. The protocol I'm going to talk about in a second. Now, the other thing is move your body. And I mentioned it earlier. Remember I said if you do about 45 seconds of body weight squats every 45 minutes, it adds up to enough movement for your body to account for a full workout. So try it. Just get up and move your butt for once during the day. Besides that, those leg muscles, those big muscles below the waist, actually use up more insulin, take in more insulin than other muscles. So if you're just doing arm curls all day, you're not likely to make yourself as insulin sensitive as if you just get up and do a few of those squats. Take a walk with some weight on your back. It's going to help you become more insulin sensitive. Download the ebook. The link is in my profile. I created it for you guys. My story is in there. There's a lot of information in there. Just download it. Do yourself the favor. And then put those things into action, but also do this. This protocol that I've taken, almost 2 hours to get to now. Okay. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for the likes. All right. So the protocol that's ending insulin resistance, and it's simple and sustainable. All right. This protocol is designed to take the guesswork out of reversing insulin resistance by making it easy, convenient, and sustainable. So by now you can probably see why so many people are struggling with insulin resistance without even knowing it. And most people don't even realize that their cravings, fatigue, and stubborn weight are symptoms of a deeper issue. They're not personal failure. It's not because you're a bad person. Instead, it's that you're trying to fight a food system that's making your body sick. And until you can actually give it what it needs, you're going to stay sick. So it's not that you're bad. You've just not been given the right information. You've not been given the right tools. You've not been given the right food because our food is so damaged. All right. So this is what it happened. This is what it is. It's 2 teas that I have in a day, and I've hardly had a sip since we've been talking. I mix mine up in about a 40-ounce mug and just sip on it all day. I coach you through how to do it when you order from me. But so this is what the day looks like for me. 2 teas and a pre-meal drink. Now, I actually have the pre-meal drink before I eat every time, just because I love what fiber does for your gut. But this is what's happening. How many of you guys have heard of GLP-1? Okay. GLP-1 is that thing that's curbing cravings. It's giving you clean, steady energy, and it supports focus and mood. Glucagon-like peptide 1. The ones in the drugs are an agonist, meaning they're forcing receptors to stay open. They're artificially increasing glucagon-like peptide in your body. It's a synthetic form. It's not as healthy. We already had somebody on here talking about how her kidneys are failing now as a result of it. So there's a natural way that you can increase your GLP-1 up to 70%, and it's this tea. Sipping on this tea throughout the day, every day, allows me to spike my glucagon-like peptide 1 naturally without all the damaging effects just by drinking this tea. Does it have glucagon-like peptide 1 in it? No, it doesn't. Your body produces that naturally, and it can't sustain itself outside of the body. So this is allowing your body to produce what it's supposed to naturally. All right. So I want you to think of an off switch with glucagon-like peptide. It switches off mindless snacking and cravings, switches off your hunger, allows you to start getting control of your hunger. This tea is extremely high in chlorogenic acids, which help you with glucagon-like peptide production in your body. So even if you feel like you're hungry and you eat when you're not hungry, or I said that wrong. Even if you feel like you've got to eat even when you're not hungry, that's glucagon-like peptide 1 not being produced in your body. When you produce it, that hunger and cravings stop. Okay, glucagon-like 1 imbalance produces this eating when you're not hungry. This eating just to eat, that's an imbalance in your glucagon-like peptide 1. This tea naturally supports that and helps fix it in your body without causing all the damage of those drugs. Then the pre-meal drink. We just spent a lot of time talking about how bad the food is. And the biggest problem with our modern diet is food spikes with blood sugar way too fast because of the food being modified, being bagged, being boxed, being processed too much, and they've stripped fiber out. So it gives me 5 grams of fiber. And remember I said 25 to 30 grams, most of us are only getting 15. I rely on the 5 grams of this because part of the reason they say 25 to 30 is they're trying to encompass the fact that not everybody's getting in all the right types of fiber. So they're overloading with fiber. This fiber is giving me specifically 7 different fibers that relate to my metabolism, helping me keep my blood sugar spikes down, keep my gut clean, feed that gut microbiome, and do it without overloading one type of fiber that's not doing all the work. This is a synergistic blend of fibers that have been scientifically designed to work more naturally as like that high octane fuel that we need. Okay. So it's like a blood sugar safety net. It can reduce a blood sugar spike by up to 43%. And that's huge because if you reduce your blood sugar spike by 43%, now you reduce an insulin spike. Now you start to get your health back. Okay. So the two products work together synergistically. It's not just the tea, it's not just the fiber. They're a tea that I'm using when I'm fasting and even when I eat to help keep my hunger at bay, to help keep my mood high, to help keep my energy high, and a fiber that I eat that I drink when I do eat to help with those blood sugar spikes. Now, that's how I manage my insulin resistance, to reverse my diabetes, reverse my hypertension, stopped joint deterioration, reversed my eyesight problems, reversed my sleep apnea, Hashimoto's, so many things that it's hard to list, you guys. It's crazy how good you can feel. Jim was just on. He's another one that has done well with it. We're reaching out to the world because I want people to be healthy without all the medications that are causing more damage. Now, look, I worked in medical offices and I saw it happen. Somebody would come in, they'd have a symptom, they'd be given a medication. That medication would cause another symptom in another area, and all of a sudden they're on another medication, which is causing more. I had a gal walk into our office one day and she handed me 2 bags of medications and she was in tears. She was like, I don't even know what I'm on anymore. I have troubles keeping up with them. You go deal with it. And it took me over half an hour, and I didn't even get halfway through charting all of her medications. And it all started with one problem. And that's what's happening with most of us. I was on 13. I'm not on any now because I just do this tea and this pre-meal drink. So, you guys, I've got to hop off. It's been almost 2 hours. Look, this is the truth. If you've made it this far, you already know that insulin resistance doesn't just go away on its own, that it's not always just so simple to reverse it. We can do all the steps we want, but every day you wait to start taking control of it, your body struggles. Every day is another day of exhaustion and cravings and feeling stuck. Every day is a day that you're working more towards ill health instead of towards vibrant health. Okay? So the truth is your body is designed to heal when it's given the right input. Okay, we've got to get the right nutrients and the right things in our body, and it can and will heal from most anything that we're suffering with today. 95% of our chronic illness is linked to insulin resistance. And if we understand how simply it is to plug in the nutrients and the things our body needs so our body can heal, 95% of everything that you're suffering with can go away just like it did for me and for so many others. Okay. The protocol isn't just a trend, it's been around for years. It just got kind of pushed down because of some medications like metformin that came out. Um, Metformin works really well, but it's not addressing the root cause. For me, I'm always a person who wants to address the root cause so that I know that I'm healing and actually getting better and not just masking symptoms and getting worse. So that's what this does. Plus, it has a 90-day money back guarantee. That's a full 3 months. Do this for 3 months. Give yourself and your health a chance for 3 months to see if it can work for you. And if at the end of the 3 months, don't give up in 1 month. Okay, don't give up in 45 days. Give it the full 90 days. If your health isn't feeling better, you're going to get your money back. And what have you lost? Nothing. But you've fed your gut, you've gotten some insulin under control, and you should be feeling better overall. Okay, so when you order with my link that's in my profile and I've dropped in YouTube, you're going to get me for coaching. You're going to get that 90-day money back guarantee. I want to warn you, Amazon, eBay, Walmart, all of those online sources, you do not get the guarantees and you're going to end up paying way more. When you use my link, you're going to pay the same price as me. I have a woman who just signed up and her husband was like, what are you doing? And he decided to start it too. So we set him up now because he's buying. She gets a $10 credit on hers every month. You get that too. Every time somebody says, what are you doing? I want to do what you're doing. You start building up credits, and look, 5 people that you're helping with their health, you're getting $50 off yours. So there's all of that, but I help you with all that. I answer your questions. You get my personal number to be able to talk to me like she does. She was sending me messages wildfire earlier. You guys, it's important. I wish that somebody would have talked to me about this, shown me this, educated me about this 10, 15 years ago, because I might not have those joint replacements. I might not have lost my gallbladder. I certainly wouldn't have been having a heart that was failing this last spring. My life would be very different if I had known about insulin resistance sooner. So here's the thing: you cannot get better if you don't start making changes. You will not change your path if you don't change your path. Okay? This is simple, it's sustainable, it's made to help you be able to do it without making changes that make it feel way too hard for you. You get to eat the foods you love. You titrate off of your medications as you work with your doctor. It doesn't interfere with any of those, it doesn't cause other side effects. You start building health and you start feeling better. And then you're like me. I can't even imagine now what my life was like 4 years ago. I pulled up a list, it's in the ebook, of all the things I was suffering with, and I was like, dang, I was one sick puppy. I don't feel like that anymore. I get down on the floor and wrestle with my 8-year-old grandson. I walk through parks with him. I walk up and down stairs, all things I couldn't have done 4 years ago. So, you guys, I want you to feel better. Just drop "I'm ready" in the comments or reach out to me and let's get you started. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow and we'll talk some more. Okay? You guys have a great day. Thanks for hanging out so long. How to be emotionally strong. Garish, that's really not what the talk was about, but I'm going to tell you something. I do want to tell you this. Emotional strength there is some inner work you have to do, and there's a lot of understanding there. But would you be surprised to know that part of why we're suffering emotionally with strength is because we're not getting energy? This whole thing I've been talking about with insulin resistance, addressing that one thing can actually affect your emotions, how strong you feel, how determined you feel, having less anxiety, less depression, all of that. It's because your brain is suffering and not getting nutrients. So if you really want answers to that, reach out to me. Let's get you started and see how much more emotionally strong you feel in 90 days. Okay, guys, I'm going to head out and we'll see you tomorrow.